roughly all of our projects, we start, we're looking at kind of a 10 to 12 month timeline for the most part. Realistically 12, but more often than not 10. And that's a really short timeline, especially for any intelligent products, i.e. wireless products that have, processing in them on board, signal processing, DSP, all that kind of stuff takes time to nail down. So we've had projects that have taken as little as 8 months and sometimes 6, and then things that have taken up to 18 months. So most of the stuff that's taken the longest is when you don't have a platform. And that's something that I've shared before with young designers that don't really realize, and even people looking for advice on how to do Kickstarter projects. Oftentimes people don't realize how long it just really takes to make something go into production. And it's not just the tooling, it's not just the engineering phase, it's sorting out defects along the line, sorting out your yields, getting things right, getting things aligned. It takes time. Design, what I do, it's very front loaded. It's like if the process is like this, then the design is like this portion. It's the first sixth of it, the real fun stuff, the real, the consumer research, the ethnographic research, the trend research, and then the sketching and all the ideating that leads you down that path. And it's the remaining, portion that's all the, it's not, there's a lot of work here. It's like I said, it's front loaded for a reason. It's really intense, really fun, but really crazy time. But then over the amount of time that you go here, that's where you figure out all your production issues, that's where you figure out your software issues, and that's where you do all your testing and validation over a larger scale and actually start getting units out to the marketplace, get them out to customers, showing them to generate interest. It's a really long process and it's variable. And so that's kind of where you slip up. So this is easy because you always know how long a design process is roughly going to take. The unpredictability comes the minute you set foot in China and you start trying to build it, because then you find out that they just can't do certain things. With this guy, when we went to the factory, they're looking at us kind of scratching their heads or looking at us like we were completely crazy when we said we wanted to do this as one piece. It's one material at least, not only one piece. It's probably the hardest manufacturing we've ever done to date. Everything about it was difficult for numerous reasons. And the engineering firms we worked with, stateside, said the same thing, but they said, we'll give it our best shot. And sometimes that's where you have to start, and it's a bold move, and it's kind of hard because there is a risk that you won't end up where you want to be. And we got lucky. They took a chance with us and ended up. But I think we started the tooling design in, let's say, roughly May. And we started actually opening up tooling and actually shooting parts maybe by late June, early July. And then we were still figuring out the mold in September, October, and it's December, January of this year. We were still having production issues. And we barely even changed the design once. But there were so many factors to consider with materials, cooling rates and so on, so many complex things that you just don't know until you prototype, till you try. There's so much we didn't know about the neck when we started. As I mentioned, I was a footwear designer before, so I really understand certain parts of the body and biomechanics and general biomechanics very, very well. But there's just things that you don't think about. Every unique part of the body has its own challenges. So I think when we got started, we thought it was going to be way easier to design for the neck across, 99th percentile human. And then, looking at NASA data, looking at military data, and all that stuff in between, and then actually the testing through people in the office. We had about 20 user testers going. Basically, the whole office was participating here in San Francisco. And you just realize that we need to try more to get it right. And the difference of a millimeter or two makes a difference between someone saying, oh yeah, these controls are super easy to use, or oh, it's really hard. And so, you just prototype until you have something. Basically what I'm getting at is you have to build that into your business model. You have to have the flexibility to do that, because ultimately you don't serve the consumer right if you cut short that process and say, well, it's good enough. Let's just get it out the door because the retailer wants it. Then before you know it, you've got a bad customer experience. That relationship that you were starting to build with them as a brand is broken, and then it's really hard to come back from that. So you want to release the right product for the right customer.